Clockwork. Clockwork. Your time is up. Now, I just want to preference this and all, and I want to give you guys a disclaimer before I start reading anything and before I start the music and all. This story contains body mutilations, mentions of sexual harassment, and other forms of blood, guts, and gore that may not be appropriate for some audiences. And this video will also be age restricted to some. Will also be age restricted to 18 and over. So if you are not, if you are squeamish about these sort of things, I highly recommend you do not check out this audiobook because it does have blood, guts, and gore and murder, and also mentions of sexual assault and body mutilation and other stuff that may not be appropriate for some viewers. Also, another discriminate thing I want to preference and all is that the story that I am reading is called Clockwork, Your Time is Up. It comes from, the story that I'm particularly reading is from Wattpad. And the owner, not the owner, but the person who retyped this up and all is called Derpy Winks. And he or she wants to preference this by saying, this of course is not my fanfiction. This is the original story of Clockwork. But you cannot find the Clockwork story on the original Creepypasta website anymore. So I'm going to post the whole thing right here for people to read. So thank you to Derpy Winks, and thank you to the original creator of Clockwork, who I think has given up ownership at this point and everything else and all. But I still want to give her preferences and still want to give her credit for what she has done. Having said that and having gotten that out of the way, I also want to preface that I am not a professional. Thank you guys so much for listening and for watching and having gotten all that description out of the way. Thank you guys, and let's get into it. Clockwork, your time is up. A little girl sat in her room, her messy brown hair pulled back into pigtails, and her hazel eyes stared at the door. She hugged her stuffed giraffe close to her body and listened closely to the loud yelling of her father and her mother. "I should have never had any damn kids," screamed a loud, deep voice. "All they ever do is make messes, complain, and draw on the walls." He was cut off by a high, angry yells by the girl's mother. "They're children, David. They don't know any better." "Oh, fuck me, Maribeth. I don't want to hear your bullshit excuses. I've had just about enough of them." "And what do you plan to do about it?" The girl heard footsteps coming towards her room. She hugged her giraffe tight closer. The door violently opened, and there in the hallway stood a large, angry, overweight man. In one of his meaty hands he held a giant, large textbook. "Stop it, David!" screamed her mother, but the father ignored his wife's cries and pleading and crying. He grabbed the little girl by the collar and screamed, and she screamed and kicked. Grabbed the little girl by the collar, and she screamed and kicked, trembling and shaking with fear. The girl's father harshly held up the textbook. "This is for drawing on my wall, you fucking little bitch." Years later, the little girl known as Natalie is 17 years old. Like usual, she stayed in her room watching TV, her dad ranting on and on about some economy crap that she really couldn't care less about, while she munched on some popcorn. She was also currently drawing a picture. It was a little bit of gore in it, but she liked drawing blood. It gave some weird satisfaction. Other than that, multitasking was no problem for her. It became apparent to her at a young age. After having to do so much hard work and labor, she was able to do everything at once. Drawing ended up being her talent and her passion. It was her way of escaping from reality. "We're here." She looked at the large sign at the school that read, "Walker's 5th Institution for Creative Fine Arts." She sighed tiredly and stepped out, putting her backpack on her shoulder. "See ya," she said at closing the car door. She walked into the school and chatted with a couple of friends, until she went up to her locker on the 3rd floor and grabbed her books. Before 5 minutes of time is over, she ran to class. Her English teacher annoyingly out her hand to Natalie's desk. "Where's your assignment, Miss Ovelette?" Natalie swallowed. I forgot it at home." "I forgot it at home." The teacher growled and stood up. "Your time is up, Miss Solette. Your time is up, Miss Solette. Don't disappoint me." Natalie seemed puzzled by the thought for a moment. She didn't know why, but those words seemed to melt through her. She simply ignored it and went back to listening to the lesson, falling asleep not long after, of course. Later that day, she was headed to her locker for fourth period, and suddenly her boyfriend Chris came up to her. "Hey, can we talk? Can you talk to me after school, okay?" She smiled at him lovingly. Though, strangely, she didn't expect anything. He was always a sweet guy. During her French class, she dared not pay attention. Instead, she doodled a thing she loved to draw. Blood, gore, people being stabbed with knives and stuff. People would say it's pretty dark for her to draw such things, but she saw nothing wrong with it. For some strange reason, it was almost normal to her. "Miss Ovaletta." She quickly covered her drawings with a paper and looked up at her French teacher. "Yes?" He gestured to her to move her right arm with a slight turn of her head. "Show me your work." She hesitated, moved her arm to show him the picture of somebody being stabbed. The teacher stared, puzzled, looking at her a bit. She smiled nervously. "Erase that and get started on your work," he said in a calm tone. "Erase that and get started on your work," he said in a calm tone. He walked away and she sighed, erased the picture. "Oh, and Miss Ovalette," she looked up at him, "your time is almost up on getting your work done. I suggest doing it now." She growled at the remark. Time always seemed to be against her. As far as she cared, time can go fuck itself. After class, time can just go fuck itself, couldn't it? After class, she walked out of the school to find her boyfriend standing near the fence by the sidewalk. She smiled and walked over to him, hoping her day can at least be cheered up by him. But as she walked over to him, her smile faded. He wasn't smiling back. "Chris, what's wrong? What do you want to talk about?" "Natalie, I think it's time that we see other people." She felt heartbroken. "But why?" He gave her a stern look. "It's your mindset, your drawings, they creep me out. I think it's something wrong with you. The saddest part is, why haven't you told me why you're acting like this? It makes me feel irresponsible, so I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry." With that, he began to walk away. Natalie slammed her hands on the bathroom counter at home. She stared at herself in the mirror, her eyes twitching. "I won't hurt myself like the others. I won't hurt myself like the others. I can stay strong." There was a needle and a black thread in her hand. "It's pointless. It doesn't help." Some weird sensation pulled at her subconscious. She chuckled slightly. "No, I'm doing it because I want to." She held up the needle and the thread at the end of it. She smirked wildly. "Time is up." Piece after piece, cut after cut, through excruciating pain. She was going through her. She did not whine. She did not whimper. She did not cry. She did not have no more tears to shed. All she did was smile. The blood was piercing. The blood from the piercing made a low dripping noise from the sink onto the counter. While she finished, she stood back and admired her handiwork. She stroked the hideous stitches on the side of her mouth that spread into a wide smile. She felt the warm blood on her fingers and licked it gently, consuming the metallic taste of liquid impure accession. She stopped when she saw her mother's reflection in the mirror behind her. Her mother's eyes wide and pale. Her mother's wide eyes and pale face. Suddenly she felt pain and cried, "Mom? Mom?" She never felt so confused. What had just happened to her? Her mother had scheduled some therapy for her. Natalie had got rid of the stitches and figured how much pain it would bring. So she went to the therapist, made sure her hood was up to not let anyone see. She sat down on the comfortable leather seat and stared at the blonde-haired woman across from her in silence. "So your name is Natalie, isn't it?" Natalie just nodded. "I'm Deborah. I'm here to help. Tell me, what have been some of your problems?" Natalie stared. Time. Time. Time has been my problem. Deborah had her face confused. Deborah just had a confused face. What about time? What about time? Natalie's hands roughly grabbed the leather seat of the couch. Everything. It makes you live through it, slowly progressing through life, being controlled by society, only to be tortured. It's a vicious cycle. Time does not end. It does not slow. It does not speed. It's violent. You live through it. The torture over and over again, unable to feel, unable to move fast forward from it. Natalie had no idea what she said. She felt she wasn't herself anymore. Could this be because of all the things she kept contained? No, it was impossible, but for some strange reason she liked it. The therapist leaned closer. Sweetie, I want you to tell me what happened to you. Natalie just stared. There was a long pause, and she smirked slightly, and her piercings from the stitches slightly opened again. Why don't you tell me, Blondie? You're the expert. Deborah seemed to have an annoyed look. I can't help you until you tell me what's wrong, Natalie. Her fingers started to tear into the seats. Natalie isn't here anymore. With that, Deborah's eyes widened up. She got up. I'll be right back. Please sit here. She walked out, leaving her alone. Natalie did not move. She sat perfectly still, a natural wanting of waiting and of patience. Her parents finally walked in. She stood, happy to go, but noticed her parents' expressions. Even her father had a strange, saddened expression on his face. Her confusion grew, but she said no words. She followed them to their car. On the way there, she thought she was going back home, so she started to drift off. Suddenly, strangely, she heard a dark voice speaking to her in her dreams. It sounded almost like herself echoing into an eternal darkness. Your time is up. She shot up awake, beads of sweat rolling down her face. She wasn't home. She wasn't in the car. She wasn't in bed. A white bed in a white room. She looked to her side, seeing that she hooked to a heart monitor, and she went to get up, but suddenly realized she was bounded down. She panicked, as you can imagine. She tried to struggle, but paused, hearing a door to her left open. A man in a white shirt looked at her, his hands behind his back, locked behind his back. You must be very confused right now, I imagine, but I'm letting you know we're only here to help. Your parents agreed to sign a contract to give you some mental drugs to hopefully help your state of mind. She opened her mouth to protest, but was quickly silent. You'll be back to normal in no time. Just try to relax. He walked over. She tried to move away, but couldn't due to the bonds around her waist and legs. He carefully took a mask and put it over his mouth and nose. She tried to shake off, but felt herself starting to slip under the drugs, her eyes slowly starting to shut. Suddenly, she woke up. She couldn't comprehend what the hell she was seeing. She was given multiple interjections, even some things being rubbed onto her skin. Some things even being rubbed onto her skin. And something being rubbed onto her. She felt woozy and unaware of her situation. She felt her heart rate started to speed up on the monitor. The doctor took notice of it, and they looked at her, seeing her eyes open. One of the doctors was yelling at another one, and she couldn't understand what they were talking about. But suddenly, she felt the rush of adrenaline slowly starting to slip through her bonds, shaking violently. One of the doctors was going to hold her down, but suddenly hesitate of doing so. All three doctors backed away. She stayed on the edge of the bed now, ripped off the mask and tubes from her arms. She got up, suddenly stumbled. Her breath hitched, her vision blurry. She couldn't make out herself, and suddenly she felt severe pain in her chest. She grabbed her pain where her heart should be, and she started to cough up blood. But as she looked up at the doctors, she muttered, "Your time is up." You reached the end of the public parts. Unfortunately, you must go to the library in order to get the other ones. So unfortunately, we're at the end of it now, and unfortunately, the poor person did not post all the end of the story. But basically, afterwards, I guess I'll have to find another part and all. I'm sure the book is somewhere. I'm sure the other parts of her story are somewhere. But unfortunately, ironically, inside the story, and both in real life, it looks like our time is up. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening in on this story and everything else. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys want to hear more, especially about the classic creepypastas and everything else. I will try my best to find the other part of her story and everything else. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I also want to give credit, once again, to the owner of the story. I really feel bad that they gave up ownership of the story because of all the bullying. I really feel bad about all that. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I really hope you guys stay tuned for the next one. I'm not sure which creepypasta I will be doing, but I also will be doing some SCPs along with it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay infectious.